So a couple weeks ago, I wrote a blog post talking about the ethics of drone usage in hunting. It's one of the things I get asked about the most when it comes to drone usage, especially when I'm out flying around showing people who haven't really seen a thermal drone before. They all say, wow, I could really use this for hunting. And there's a lot of laws on the books that prevent that, or are supposed to prevent that sort of usage in drones. And after answering this question probably about a dozen or so times, I really wanted to give my thoughts about using drones in hunting. So this isn't going to be a full rereading of my entire blog post, and if you don't want to listen to me yap about it and prefer to read it all, you can find that blog post on northwindaerialimaging.com, and you can find that website in the link tree in the description of this video. So let's get right to it. Hunting is both a way of providing sustenance for your family as well as a great outdoor sport to help people kind of keep in track and stay grounded in nature. I am a hunter myself, and I have a lot of friends who are hunters. Hunting allows outdoorsmen to provide sustenance for their family by going out and harvesting from our natural resources. There's lots of different types of hunting that go on, whether it's big game, small game, waterfowl, upland birds, and all of these forms of hunting are governed by hunting regulations. Hunting regulations strive to create a balance between man, who has been, over the course of thousands of years, geared towards taking food from their natural environment, and keeping our natural resources intact to prevent overhunting. There's a constant debate going on between how far do hunting regulations go. There's a lot of people I know who view many hunting regulations as draconic. They think they are way too overbearing and keep them from easily gathering natural resources to feed their family. And then there's a lot of people that think hunting regulations don't go nearly far enough and view hunting as a crime against nature. I'm not here to debate the ethics of hunting. If you're here, I assume you're probably somewhat interested in the outdoors, somewhat interested in hunting, or you might be interested in having it not exist at all. But again, we're not here to debate that. We're here to discuss the usage of technology, namely unmanned aerial vehicles, unmanned aerial systems, or drones, as it pertains to hunting. To be clear, I am a hunter and a fisherman myself, albeit a very, very bad one. Most of the deer that I've harvested have come from a stone's throw around my house, and they've spent their entire life walking between the rice fields and the almond trees and getting fat and lazy. When it comes to waterfowl hunting, a lot of my friends, the highlight of their life is going out and sitting in a duck blind in 40-degree weather when it's pouring rain to bring home a bunch of meat from those fields. The only thing I want to be doing when it's 40 degrees out and cold is sitting in my house drinking coffee. I used to be an avid upland game hunter, meaning that I loved hunting dove, I loved hunting pheasants, I loved hunting turkeys, and now I find way more enjoyment at yelling at the hundreds of turkeys in my orchard to stop pecking holes in my irrigation tube. I'm a mediocre hunter at best. I've never gone and wandered around the mountains trying to chase down the buck of a lifetime. I don't really go wandering around scrub brush anymore trying to stir up a flock of pheasants. And turkeys, I honestly prefer to raise my own and harvest when the time is right, as compared to going out and hunting one of the scraggly birds that I spend most of my time just furious at for the destruction they cause my orchards. But now that we've got that disclaimer out of the way, let's talk about the ethics of technology in hunting, especially drones. Technology and game have always butt heads across the years. Humanity is constantly innovating and creating new technologies to make hunting easier. And now in today's society, we really don't need to go out and harvest so much game to feed the world, but there's still a lot of use for going out and taking your own game. One of the biggest headbutts between technology and hunting came in the form of the punt gun, which was a large boat-mounted shotgun. The punt gun could bring down whole flocks of birds with one shot, and towards the 1860s, its use in hunting was banned across most of the United States due to depopulation of waterfowl stock. Similarly, in places like Alaska, Wireless communication and spotting animals when you're flying in is banned. When you're flying into Alaska to hunt, you cannot hunt on the same day that you fly in, because you being up in the air allows you an unfair advantage to the game animals that you're going to be hunting. Because if you can spot them, land, walk out there, and take them on that same day, that really removes a lot of the sport and a lot of the chase from hunting itself. And with wireless communication, say you're out there and you're hunting something like a moose. You have a bunch of people out there, you have radios, you have cell phones. You could simply call in or ping exactly where that animal is and call your hunter over there to take the animal. Obviously, you're not flying in on a drone, you're going to be flying in on something like a Super Cub, but spotting animals from the air, that kind of factors into exactly what we're talking about. Many other states also ban the use of night vision, laser sights, infrared cameras, or the like when hunting animals. They provide an unfair advantage to the hunters. For instance, infrared allows you to see any bit of body heat that might be out there in your hunting zone, allowing the animals to not even hide in a lot of their natural cover or at night. Against wireless communication, infrared, laser sights, and aerial spotting, the animals have little to no protection. Now, what if I told you a lot of those technologies I just described I have on one of my drones? The DJI Matrice 30T, which is my bread and butter when it comes to search and rescue technology, has a wide view camera with 4K resolution, a 200 times digital zoom camera, a infrared sensor that allows me to see in the dark as well as see any sort of body heat, and a laser rangefinder that doesn't just give me the distance to the animal from my drone, it also drops an exact GPS pin coordinate on that animal. Laser rangefinders get up to about 2,500 feet horizontal distance, which is plenty far enough to take the shot on an animal. A lot of rangefinders are used in hunting, but having it up in the air takes out even way more of the sport, I guess you would say, for hunting. Not only does the laser rangefinder on my drone give the distance to the target, as well as those GPS pins I mentioned, it also gives the elevation in above sea level units, which is huge for making the shot. All of that is consolidated in one small aircraft that can be deployed in a matter of seconds. This provides several completely unfair advantages as it pertains to hunting. Great for search and rescue, great for helping locate missing people and getting them returned home safely. Terrible if you're trying to go out and hunt something. Let's do a little exercise right here. I've got a couple of photos right here that I really want you to take a couple of seconds and look at. I took these out on a routine recreational flight about a year and a half or so ago, and I did not know there were any animals in this clearing right here until I flipped over to the infrared camera. So take a couple seconds, look at this photo, and tell me if you can spot the two animals in this photo. Now let's switch on to thermal camera. This is a side-by-side view, with the right being the normal view through the zoom camera and the left view being a white-hot forward-looking infrared sensor. Can you spot the two animals in it now? Let's zoom in on that heat signature right there at the top. And when you look at that, there's a wild pig. They're seen as either a pest in some states or a legitimate game animal in others. And right next door to it, just a short distance down and to the right on the infrared photo, is a coyote. I never would have spotted either animal from the ground due to the dense weed cover and curvature of the land, but with a drone, I stumbled across them completely by chance during my random recreational flight. These photos were taken with the Mavic 3T. This was before I purchased the Matrice 30T, which is significantly more powerful, but it still stands how powerful having an eye in the sky, especially with infrared, is. With this drone, not only was I able to spot these animals from an incredible distance away, I was then able to fly right over them, drop GPS pins on them, and I would be able to essentially guide myself in there very easily. This whole clearing right here is on a very small hill. If I approached this on foot or by vehicle, these animals would be alerted to my presence far before I was able to see them, due to the curvature of the earth and the amount of dense coverage on this little clearing hill. If I was guiding a hunter in, I could give them the exact GPS pins of where these animals were. I could give them the elevation of exactly where it was and a distance from any sort of landmark. So a hunter could walk in, not even really know where the animals were. They could have the rifle ranged exactly how far they needed to in order to hit the animal, and they would know the exact location. In some ways, they wouldn't even really need to see the animal before they took the shot. That is incredibly unfair to these animals. During a recent search and rescue exercise I had last year, we went out and basically spent about 2-3 days just going over all sorts of search and rescue techniques and training. And over breakfast and over dinner, I put my drone up in the air just to kind of do some extracurricular training with me and my team, and we just basically flew around a campsite, and into pitch black, we were able to spot over a dozen deer around our campsite that we never would have seen, never would have known they were there if it wasn't for the infrared camera. So even if you're not out here hunting pigs and coyotes, you could be hunting large game animals such as these deer and unfairly taking them due to technology. I'm planning a video sometime in the future where I'm going to kind of put this thought exercise to the test. I'm considering even streaming it just to kind of get away from all of the editing aspect of it to show just how easy it is. There's plenty of times where I've taken off from my house and put my drone up in the air and just done a 360 spin around my house. And even so far out as about half a mile from my house, I can see the glowing thermal signatures of game animals, everything from mice all the way up to deer, badgers, coyotes, pigs, you name it, just from my house. I want to do a video or stream one of these days where I essentially put my drone up in the air, do that 360, and time how long it takes me from setup to putting the drone up in the air and finding an animal that I could hunt, just to see how short of a time it would take me. I would probably give myself about 5 minutes max, but through my own experiences, I know I could probably do it in a couple of seconds. Why? Because I've done it already. I haven't gone out and hunted them. I've just gone out and seen, hey, what's around my house? What are my dogs barking at? My 2 beloved border collies are constantly yapping in the middle of the night, and there's plenty of times that I like to just put my drone up and just make sure there's no coyotes or pigs or beasties, wendigos, skinwalkers, you name it, hanging around outside my house because I'm paranoid. So with all this in mind, just showing how easy it is to use a drone for hunting, I really want to encourage everyone, don't even let the thought of using a drone during your hunt cross your mind. Unless it is a life or death situation where you are starving and you need to find any sort of animal to eat, leave your drone at home when you step outside your door carrying a rifle, carrying a bow, going out and hunting. Not only is it illegal, it's highly unethical. I hear the fines are pretty stiff for using drones while hunting. I know California especially makes it so you can't fly your drone within 3 days before or after a season around hunting areas while you're hunting. And if you take a look at the Airborne Hunting Act of 1971, you'll get a good idea of just how strict some of these laws are. I wouldn't want to even tempt those fines. And again, if you just completely leave out the legality aspect of it, in my opinion, it is incredibly unethical. Drones provide way too easy of a way of hunting and tracking game for me to be comfortable with their use in hunting at all. And as much as it pains me to say it, I agree with the government on their illegal use in hunting. And excuse me, I'm going to go vomit. A lot of the same people who see me using my drones in order to locate lost people, locate lost animals, or any other use I've used them, have remarked on how much they would like one of these drones while hunting. A lot of these same people, when I start talking about high-powered fish sonars, side scan sonar, or even the sonars that are used in ice fishing, where it essentially provides a full, clear view of everything below you, including every fish swimming below you. A lot of these same people that advocate for drone use in hunting see that as kind of unfair to the fish. They say it turns fishing into a video game. They say it just removes a lot of the sport from fishing. And when I explain how drones essentially do the same thing, a lot of them have their minds changed. Now, I'm not sitting here chastising anyone who uses good sonar, side scan sonar, anything in fishing, because Lord knows I could use it. I am I am a worse fisherman than I am a hunter. Unless it's a pike minnow, I am awful at catching it. Additionally, getting a fish to bite a lure or bait is way different than pulling the trigger or loosing the string. There is a separate use for drones in hunting that I firmly agree with and believe that it should be expanded and made easier for people to use them in, and that is the recovery of game animals. I think that once an animal has been shot legally, ethically by a hunter, drones should not just be encouraged but celebrated to be used for this recovery. Making sure that we can go out and recover a game animal that we have wounded or killed, going out and making sure that we can recover it to process it is huge. No one wants to go out and shoot an animal and let it just die, unless you're a poacher and that makes you a real piece of shit. No legal or ethical hunter wants to pull the trigger, loose the string on an animal, wound it, and then have it disappear into high rocky terrain or super brushy scrubland that then they have a very hard time recovering it. There's plenty of times where you could walk right past an animal and not see it after you've taken it. Using drones, especially those with thermal imaging cameras, can really help locate this animal. I know there's one time in my past where I really wish I could have used a drone to recover an animal. Back when I was a teenager, I shot a buck and it ran. We followed the blood trail, couldn't find it, and we spent about 2 full days trying to recover it and track it down. We did not find its body until several months later in the middle of an overgrown, super brushy creek that we happened to find in the middle of winter when we were out just walking around on a hike. I think back on that 20-something years later and am still horrified that I let that happen. It puts a feeling in the pit of my stomach that I still can't shake. I feel awful. I much rather would have preferred that animal live out its life in nature or fill my freezer to feed my family. I would love to see the use of drones more and more incorporated in the recovery of these animals to prevent anyone from feeling like I did when I made that mistake. A lot of states allow the use of drones for recovery, while other states completely ban their usage in hunting seasons and in hunting areas. The company Drone Deer Recovery, which is based in Ohio, operates solely on the purpose of helping hunters recover their game animals once they've been shot. From everything I've seen, the guys over at Drone Deer Recovery use the Matrice 30T, which, as I've stated before, is an incredibly powerful drone. The M30T makes quick work of a lot of different searches and helps recover these game animals so that they can be processed and turned into useful sustenance for these hunters and their families. To the guys and gals over at Drone Deer Recovery, I applaud your business and applaud your efforts, and I think you guys are doing a great thing for the world and for all hunters. And hopefully someday I would love to go and meet with them and collaborate with them, possibly even look at becoming a certified drone deer recovery specialist myself. I don't know when I would fit that into my schedule, but it's something that I believe so heavily in that I applaud their mission and would love to help out with it however I can. So make sure you go over and check out the Drone Deer Recovery guys in Ohio and show them some love. On the topic of becoming a drone deer recovery specialist, here in California, it's mostly illegal to use drones in hunting at all. Until I started doing research for this blog post and for this video, and I found out that just recently, California updated it so that you can apply for a special use permit for drones to help recover your animal. Until then, it was completely illegal. So I learned something while doing this, and good job, California. While special use permits are definitely a step in the right direction, there's a lot of different ways that I think this whole process could be streamlined. Wow, even got a pager going off in this video. Great. Good job, Tim. So as I was saying, special use permits are a great step in the right direction, but I feel like we could streamline this process a lot easier and essentially get pilots certified through the California Department of Fish and Game or even through Federal Fish and Wildlife. I would see it as either issuing another license or providing an endorsement on your Part 107 pilot's license, similar to the endorsements that are used on Class A licenses for transporting stuff such as double trailers, hazmat, water, all those sorts of endorsements that guys need to legally drive trucks. This way, instead of needing to fill out a special use permit and pay the fees every single year, you would just do a one-time training course with probably recurrent training, and you would have a separate license issued or an endorsement on your Part 107 saying, hey, I am certified as a game recovery specialist, and when you go out to help with the recovery, you would just have that license in your back pocket that you could then hand over to the game warden, who would probably be out there to certify the recovery. Were I in charge of this program, it would look something a lot like this. You would apply for this separate license, you would go through a training course, either person or preferably online, and you would take a course or a test on the ethical use of drones in hunting, as well as hunting laws and regulations, ethical hunting practices, all sorts of stuff like that. And once you pass that test, you would then submit that paperwork through the Federal Fish and Game Agency or through your state Fish and Game Agency, whoever is handling this sort of license. And you would go through a background check, maybe even go in and have an in-person meeting with Fish and Game. And then once you've passed through all of that, you would be issued your license. Once you've been issued your license, you would essentially be agreeing to not carry any sort of long-range weapon that would allow you to take an animal while you are out assisting with recovery operations. This is to essentially prevent fraud from the system of you going out with a rifle, with a bow, a shotgun, whatever, with a drone in hand, and then taking that animal and then saying, no, I'm out here helping out the recovery, because it's a very slippery slope between allowing use of drones in recovery and using drones in hunting. And that's what we really want to avoid, is that sort of fraud and abuse. If you were called or dispatched to come out and help with the recovery, you would essentially not carry any weapons with you. You would be assisting the hunter with the recovery only. Additionally, all licenses that you would be holding, certifying you as a game recovery specialist, would be on you at all times and be presented to any sort of Fish and Game officer at their request without any sort of pushback. While enacting your duties as a game recovery specialist, you would be recording on the camera of your drone at all times, from the moment you take off to the moment you land. So essentially there is video proof that you went out, found this animal, ensured that it was deceased before sending the hunters in to recover it, and then you would have all of that documentation to keep yourself out of any legal hot water. Ideally, you would have a game warden with you at all times during the recovery, so they can essentially watch with the drone to ensure the legitimacy of the hunt and recovery. I know with staffing issues and everything, that probably is not going to happen, but it would just help give a little more legitimacy to the recovery, as well as keep everything above the board. These are all just kind of fine-tooth details that can be ironed out as we work through this sort of program, this hypothetical program, that could all be worked out in the future. I'm still hoping one of these days that I can get a chance to talk to one of the guys at Drone Deer Recovery and see how they go about handling everything, since they seem to have their stuff together, and I think it would be really good to chat with them and see if we can get how they do things established more on a countrywide level. The explosion in drone technology over the past several years has been something incredible to see. Just about 3 years or so ago, I didn't think of drones really at all, besides just being a, hey, that's cool, there's a camera with propellers flying. Now that they have become not just my hobby, but literally my second job at this point, I'm very interested in helping out with figuring out the regulations of how they're going to be used in day-to-day life and scenarios such as this, because they are not going away. If anything, the technology on them just keeps getting better and better, and we've got to figure out a way to incorporate them into the facets of our life while still remaining ethical and legal above it. There's plenty of regulations that I don't agree with. I'm looking at you beyond visual line of sight rules. But there's still plenty of regulations that I do. I don't believe in complaining without presenting possible solutions to something, so that's why I'm kind of having this conversation. Finding a good middle ground between saying that something is completely outlawed in use and preventing complete anarchy is something we all have to strive for. All these ideas and scenarios that I've thrown out can easily be tweaked and fine-tuned as we go on. All these ideas and scenarios that I threw out today, I feel like, in my opinion, strike a pretty good balance between ethical hunting and just wanton use of technology to overharvest game. As always, in every one of my videos, I'm happy to be told how I'm wrong and how your opinions might differ. I'm not above criticism. Go back and look at the video that I made on using shotguns versus drones, and you'll see how many comments in there are happy to tell me I'm wrong, and outside of a few of them, I'm not going to push back, because that's how we learn. We have calm, rational conversations like this about topics and try and find solutions through them. Mainly, I'm just trying to give you something to think about, whether you are out watching this video at your deer camp, chasing the buck of a lifetime, or you're in your squad car trying to find a poacher who's using a drone to hunt down elk, or if you're behind your desk watching this on your screen at your fish and game agency and you're screaming at your screen because I'm trying to give more work to your already overworked agency. Sorry about that. Thanks for watching. Happy hunting.